Hi, Dr. Rashad.
Yeah, you see in the beard, right?
Hey, everybody. How are you doing? Hey, Kelly Love. Good afternoon, Tabitha. Hey, Landon. How are you? Nikki, baby. How you doing, love bug? We're going to let a few more people come in the building once they realize that I'm live, and we will go ahead and get started.
What's the live link so I can put it on the gram for people to follow?
Okay, the channel is Bama Girl Vlogs, BAMA Girl Vlogs, VLOGS.
Got you.
Nikki. Y'all, please don't forget to thumbs up the video as you come in. Please and thank you. YBS Mary, how are you, baby? Such a vibe. Hey, how you doing, Miss Tabitha? Tell Mr. Tabitha I said good afternoon. Hey, Goddess Love. You always do the right things. Thank you so much. Camille C. Hey, Lovebug. Hey, LaFern. It's Pooh. How you doing, love? Today, we are all about education and credentials. Jay Parrish, how you doing? How are you? Thank you so much for ringing my doorbell. Thank you so much. You know, I hate being treated like the help. You all come in, walk past me as if I'm working, and this is not my home, but thank you so much. Ring the doorbell, come on in, have a seat. If you'd like something to drink, let me know. I'll see if I can accommodate. Hey, Brooklyn Star, how are you, baby?
All right.
Everybody looks nice on the panel. I do agree. Today, guys, we have South Carolina State in the building. You all, thank you so much for welcoming everybody. I'm going to have everyone introduce themselves as well as their positions. And we will start with Ms. Stacy.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Stacy Sewell. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment at South Carolina State University. I have been in the collegiate space as an administrator for over 16 years in various positions in student affairs, athletics, and enrollment management. So,
right. Excellent.
Ms. Jennifer.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jennifer Rivers. I work in the college access workforce development space. I work currently at a charter school in Philadelphia where I primarily service opportunity youth, so young people between the ages of 18 to 21 who previously had stopped out of school and are returning to get their high school diplomas and a workforce credential. Before that, I mean, I know a lot of people when I say this, so I always have to preface it like I know I look very young, but I'm in my 17th year as a professional in this industry. So my career has spanned from admissions to working at nonprofit organizations to support high school completion and post-secondary planning. I've also worked in academic advising. All in Philadelphia, so big university in Philadelphia. So I've done a lot of work in this space. And I'm currently, in addition to working, I'm currently in a EDD program at Temple University in the College of Education, where I'm earning my doctorate in higher education. So my focus is actually on HBCUs because I am a product of one. I'm a proud Howard University graduate, where I received my undergraduate degree in political science. And I really just believe in that there's something magical about HBCUs that is not elevated. I find very little in the literature, which makes me excited about my research and the gap that I'm going to fill in that area. So super excited to have this conversation today. I was supposed to actually go on a college tour. We were going to stop at South Carolina State. It's been like probably 5 or 6 years since I had a chance to go down there. So I'm excited to meet my fellow panelists today.
All right.
Dr.
So
Rashad?
Well, hold on, Bama girl. Wait, Doc. Stacy, come on now. Like, listen, we want. Listen. You see what I'm saying? First of all, you an Aggie, so you supposed to brag all the time. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So I got my Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I got my Master of Arts degree in English and African American literature, concentrating in Black protest literature from North Carolina A&T State University. Currently, I'm enrolled in a PhD program at North Carolina A&T State University. Leadership studies, my research focuses are race, gender, religion, politics, and class. So my research, my dissertation topic, because I'm currently ABD, y'all. Okay, anyway. So I don't have to take any more classes. Right. But anyway, so my proposed dissertation topic is on Black church culture. So I'm a country PK. My daddy's a pastor. So you know, in addition to my work with historically Black colleges and universities, you know, I'm interested just in what type of cultural things make the Black community go around. I purposely have received all of my degrees from HBCUs because job descriptions just say PhD required. They don't say we don't accept HBCU degrees.
Right.
So that's right.
Yeah, I did that on purpose. I have purposely built my career at HBCUs. I've only ever worked at one PWI before. And I did that on purpose because I want to be part of the culture. I want to impact the culture. I want to impact the future of young people in my community. So
excellent. Yay.
And that's a lot, and that's a lot of studying, and that's a lot of years. Therefore, you needed to say that, and you needed a long time to do that, and unapologetically. Okay.
Okay.
Kudos to the Black professionals. And now we have Dr. Rashad Anderson. What's up?
What's going on? So I am a proud 2010 graduate of the SC State University.
Awesome.
Okay.
The only public HBCU in the state of South Carolina. Been doing it big since 1896. But anywho, I now serve. I was an elementary school teacher, and I received my PhD from the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and I returned back to my alma mater in 2015 to take over as an assistant professor of teacher education. And I also have the privilege of serving as the campus director for the nationally acclaimed Call Me Mr. program. So,
all right.
Proud HBCU grad. Bulldog in the building.
And are you a part of a 3-letter organization?
Of course. I'm actually a part of 2. So I am a part of Alpha, Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I also do music fraternity, Phi Mu Alpha Symphonia. So those are my 2 friends. Yes.
Okay. All right. Wow. Yeah. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, I mean, because, you know, Phi Mu Alpha, and then you can be Kappa Psi, because we had Tau Beta Sigma at A&T, Mu Phi Epsilon, the whole 9. It's a lot. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Bama girl, so here's this beautiful, diverse panel that we have. Now
Yes.
talking about, we are talking about South Carolina State University. And the reason why South Carolina State University is so very important is because it is one of the schools in the state of South Carolina that has this absolutely awesome program called the Call Me Mr. program, which Dr. Rashad will definitely expound on. However, South Carolina is an interesting state. And I think that a lot more attention needs to be given to the state of South Carolina so that a lot more of our students can travel and not think of South Carolina in some of the ways, stereotypes that we still have about it. But we need to debunk some of these stereotypes. And listen, we're the COVID generation. This is the deal. We're the COVID generation. We're the ones that's going to make the rules and regulations. We're the one that's going to come up with new standard operating procedures. We are the educators. We're the professionals. What we say is going to go from this point on. And so I wanted to make sure that our HBCUs are represented and have information is out there about them.
Right.
So, Bama girl, what would you like to say before Stacy gets started talking about South Carolina State?
Well, first and foremost, let me just welcome everybody to the panel, everybody to the chat. I'm so happy to see that everybody was able and available to make it today. Can you see the chat, TC?
I'm scared.
Dr. Rashad, can you see the chat?
I can.
Yeah.
You can. Okay.
I see some ice.
Yes, you do.
I do.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
you do.
Okay. Yeah, I can see the chat now. Okay.
So Bama girl, why don't you let people rep their school, let them rep their sororities and fraternities out there, because we do have those that do that.
Yes, we do. And for anyone that's in the chat that has gone to an HBCU that has also pledged, please rep your schools right now in the chat. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's see what we got going on here.
Gilberto, we have to give a shout out to Gilberto. Yeah.
Shout out to Gil.
Gil.
Hey, Gil.
All right. I see. How many times is Gil going to say ice?
You're proud of them? Oh, both your nieces graduated Morgan State. Okay.
Okay. My dad's 75. Tabitha said her dad is 75 years old on Friday, and he was a student at South Carolina State. Excellent.
Okay.
Okay.
BSU class of 07. Okay.
Okay, I see one of my sorors on the chat.
Uh-oh. Okay.
A sense of awe from Columbia.
A sense of awe. Hey. Okay. Excellent. All right. VSU. Okay.
Fayetteville State, ice cold. A5A. Okay, Gil.
Yeah, my power. It's wonderful.
This
Howard University class of 03.
02.
Yes, Sweet Heat, Grambling State University. Okay.
You know what? I done told, I'm going to get Gil. That's
Girl,
okay.
You're going to represent all day.
All right.
At South Carolina State. Okay. Okay.
All righty. So we want to go ahead and get started, Bama girl.
With Morgan State University. Okay, YBS Mary. Okay.
So Stacy, give us the rundown of South Carolina State, admissions and.
Okay. So just a couple things. People don't know about South Carolina State, and Dr. Anderson, please feel free to help me out here.
I got you.
South Carolina State actually has wonderful engineering program. In the state of South Carolina, number one, it is the only state supported historically Black college or university. The rest of the HBCUs in the state are private. So when people think of engineering in the state of South Carolina State is often one of the best kept secrets. We have a highly competitive engineering program. Also, one of the amazing things about South Carolina State is South Carolina State produces one of the largest numbers of Black generals in the United States military. So the only other school that produces more Black generals than South Carolina State is West Point, of course. I mean, they should, but the next two schools that produce the most Black generals are HBCUs, and that's South Carolina State and Virginia State. And by the way, West Point only has us by one currently. So ROTC is huge. South Carolina State, the state of South Carolina is really very military friendly. So ROTC is a big deal at South Carolina State. Also, we're what you call a football school. So we were co-MEAC champions this year. We have several individuals in the NFL. One was just drafted as a free agent. Was NFL draft last week or the week before. We had 4 nationally ranked track athletes. So athletics is pretty big. What else, Dr. Rashad, can I highlight about the history of South Carolina State?
Talk about the band, the Marching 101.
Oh yeah, the Marching 101, second to none.
Wait. Okay, because
listen. Okay, but this is about South Carolina State. We're not talking about A&T today. We're not talking about Howard today.
We're not. I get it.
We're talking about the Marching 101 in South Carolina State.
I acquiesce.
Yes. So as far as admissions goes, we do try to include as many students as possible in our admissions process. So you would need a 2.0 cumulative weighted GPA for admission, but it must be accompanied by a 17 composite on the ACT or a 900 score on the SAT. Due to COVID-19, we have implemented some policies to help students who were unable to take standardized tests or whose testing, their rescheduled tests, they were unable to make them. So with a 2.3 cumulative weighted GPA, we can offer a provisional admission without the standardized test score.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that would allow us to, give the best opportunity to the most students. As far as scholarships go, for honors college, students would still need a 3.5 cumulative weighted GPA, a 1200 on the SAT, or a 24 on the ACT. So honors college is quite competitive. And that is the only place that offers, one of the only places that offers a full academic scholarship. We are NCAA Division I, so there are opportunities for athletic scholarship in a number of sports, including soccer, tennis, basketball, volleyball, softball, track and field, football, basketball. But the only academic scholarship for incoming freshmen to receive a full scholarship is through the Honors College.
It's through the Honors. Okay.
So, the Marching 101, they are still recruiting. They do offer scholarships as well. So if students, are interested in playing instruments, they should definitely contact Mr. Patrick Moore or Mr. Eric Williams in the music department. So I think we just finished up the virtual cheerleading tryouts.
Wow.
This week. Yeah. So you can follow SCSU cheerleaders on Instagram for more information on that. And you can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook, SCSU 1896. That is the official Instagram and social media of the university. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me, because I want to now make this connection, because Dr. Richard is in charge of the Call Me Mr. program.
Mm-hmm.
And that is major because it's not only connected just with the school, but it was an initiative started throughout with the state. And
Right.
of course, South Carolina State picked right on up on it. I just want to say that had it not been for this particular program, or put it this way, because of the Call Me Mr. program, I was able to complete my master's thesis and with hands down. And when I found the program, I was able to go down to South Carolina and visit the schools and actually be able to write about what was going on and what was happening. So Dr. Richard, without any further ado, because we're all about this credentialing, Black professionals, Black educators, Black working class, Black middle class, Black workforce, Black community, Black family. Please let us know about the Call Me Mr. program, please.
Absolutely. So I am a graduate of the Call Me Mr. program at SC State University. And one of the things that I do now is I feel like I am a talent scout. And really what Call Me Mr. is about is gathering this revolutionary group of young, brilliant Black males that are excited about changing their community by being teachers and educators. And so what's really a unique position for me now is that I have the opportunity to train the next wave of Black male educators that are getting ready to hit the classroom. And so Call Me Mr. was started in the year 2000 at Clemson. Not at Clemson University, our headquarters, but it was really started at 3 HBCUs. And since the year 2000, Call Me Mr. has expanded to over 20 colleges and universities in the state, and it's expanded to 9 other states within the nation. And so we are growing to be a movement in our country for producing these Black male excellent educators. And so some of the things that I say to like young guys is typically we know that only 2% of teachers in the country right now are Black males. And so oftentimes, a lot of young Black males don't even think about maybe I can be a teacher. It's not something that they even conceptualize. And one of the things that I do when I go into schools is like, you will often find that you have the characteristics to be a great teacher and you don't even know that. Do you really like working with kids? Do you find yourself in a coaching position? Do you feel like you can coach? Is it like a particular subject that you really like love? Are you passionate about transforming your community? And so I get to work with those guys, tap into them, and to in a matter of 4 years, help them become educators that are not just going to go into a classroom and do the status quo, but be willing enough to shake some stuff up for the betterment of everybody in the entire school. So that's a little bit about Call Me Mr. I say South Carolina State University is leading the wave in producing Black male educators. So that's kind of Call Me Mr. in a nutshell.
I also want to point out. Sorry. I wanted to point out by way of education, South Carolina State is one of the largest producers of educators, superintendents in the state of South Carolina. I promise we cannot visit a high school, no matter where we are in the state, without running into South Carolina State graduates who are school counselors, principals, superintendents, and teachers. So we have 7 graduate degrees as well, and one of them is the EDD program, and that particular program focuses on preparing principals and superintendents. So
okay. And I also want to quickly shout out Call Me Mr. gives scholarships up to $10,000 a year. It's a teacher leadership program that also offers scholarships as well.
Excellent. Well, let me just say this, and Jennifer, Rashad, Stacy, I want all of you all's input. We have several mothers that are in the chat. Bama Girl is a mother, and her husband have 5 young ones that are absolutely awesome and getting ready. Like I just told you, they're going to be going to HBCUs. When, in your professional opinion, because it seems like each of you all have at least 20 good years, right? At least, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what, y'all so wrong. You all have at least 20 good years each, okay? So this is 60 years, okay? Now, how, when, given today's statistics, research, and all of you are going through it, when are we supposed to start getting our children ready for college?
Elementary school. Absolutely start in elementary school. For me, when I was an elementary school teacher, taking the kids to college campuses right when they're in elementary, exposing them, go ahead and planting that seed at an early age. The earlier.
Wait a minute. You said you took students in elementary school to colleges?
Yes. College.
Wait, okay, so
in elementary school, absolutely. Yeah.
What grade was that?
3rd grade. And so one of the things that I do now at SC State is every year, sponsored by 1890 Research and Extension Programs, I hold the Brothers Keeper Leadership Summit, where we bring students from 3rd to 12th grade on South Carolina State campus so that they had that experience to see what college campus is like. So emerge them in elementary school, start planting those seeds. For me, I didn't visit a college campus until my senior year of high school. It just was not something. I'm the first college graduate in my family, and so it just was not something I was exposed to. And I was just thinking, man, if I would have been exposed to college, preparation so much earlier, I would have been so much further advanced. But the earlier, the better.
I say from the womb. I agree. Both of my parents I'm 2nd generation college graduate. Both my parents are HBCU graduates. And my dad was an HBCU administrator for 39 and a half years. So okay. I followed that man everywhere on campus, to every event, game, choir, concert, whatever, banquet stuff. 7-year-olds shouldn't have been at mostly. But, when it came time for me to go to college, I wasn't even thinking about anything other than an HBCU. And then when I was in college, I have 12 nieces and nephews. So at the time I was in college, I only had 4 nieces. So wherever I went, my nieces were trotting right along behind me, games, homecoming, coronations and stuff like that. And so when they went to college, they did the same thing to their little sisters and brothers. So, if you keep doing that and exposing them to, even just the social events, and then it builds conversation, and they see you work hard to obtain your degree, take them to graduation to see what the end of the journey looks like. It really impresses upon them, especially if you have a student who may go to a school where they're the only one, the only Latino, the only Black student, or the only Black woman, or whatever in their class, in their grade. Being in an environment where, nobody has to explain why my hair is short and crinkly today and then tomorrow is long and straight. You don't have to explain that.
Right.
Those things go a really, really long way to building self-efficacy for academics. We talk a lot about social development, but those things also impact students' ability to persist academically. So from the womb, as soon as they can walk them right on the campus.
All right. So, so Stacy, and I'm gonna let Jennifer. You're gonna be next.
Okay.
You're next. But Stacy, can I safely assume that you are a daddy's girl?
I am a daddy's girl, but my mom was my best friend, though.
There you go. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. There you go.
Yeah.
Sis.
Yeah, that's how
right.
I am too.
I am
right.
a daddy's
So,
girl. My mama is my best friend, though.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I would echo the same sentiments, but for a couple of different reasons. Definitely in the womb, I think we focus when we talk about preparing students for post-secondary education. And I don't want to limit it. I say post-secondary because I did not limit my conversation to college or say college, because people assume that you're just saying college. I know for me, it's more so like, let's look at all of the options on the table, right? For that particular young person. But I'll get to that. That'll probably be a later part of the conversation. I would say that from in utero, from the standpoint of what is it that parents need to be prepared to do to send their child to college, in addition to having the college conversation, right? I think particularly as Black folks, and I'm not saying, it's just Black people, but in my experiences working with Black families in particular, and even having observed it growing up. So a little bit about my background. Both of my parents are now retired educators. I would be considered third generation college graduate. So my oldest brother, both my dad went to Cheyney University. My mom went to a small college in Indiana. They were baby boomers, so they benefited greatly from affirmative action initiatives. My uncle was one of the first Black men. He was a part of that wave of Black students that were recruited to go to Harvard University in the 60s. So one of his, I think Cornel West was in the class behind him, and James Brown, the football commentator, was in his class. So they were a part of that wave. And so again, I'm grateful. I benefited greatly from, those different initiatives at the time, and just the value that my family placed on education. My aunts, so my grandmother's sisters so my family's from North Carolina. So I have Southern roots. They went to North Carolina Central University, North Carolina A&T. My uncle went there. So education, and they all became educators. So again, education was the expectation in my household. My oldest brother went to University of Pennsylvania. I went to Howard. My youngest brother went to Lincoln. But growing up, my parents understood, we're going to make sure that we're investing in our child's education from the time that they come out of the womb. So my parents made a conscious decision when we were very young to put us in private school until we got to high school. And then we went to magnet high schools in Philadelphia because they wanted us to have that solid foundation. They sacrificed, obviously, because it wasn't cheap. It was cheaper than it is now, but again, cost of living prices, that increase has gone up.
Right.
But my parents invested heavily in making sure that we had access to what they considered a high quality education, and then also extracurricular activities. So we were involved in music. We swam. So Black people, that myth that Black people don't swim. We swam. If you're familiar with the movie Pride, that was my coach, Jim Ellis.
Yes. Oh, was he? Oh, that's amazing.
He's a Cheyney grad, the whole nine. So again, I think.
So Jennifer, so you are a triathlon person. Can you help me out there, please?
Yes, I've done triathlons. When you know how to swim, running and running around the bike is not that hard. So that's what I've done in my 30s. But anyway, so those were things that my parents exposed us to, and they didn't know. For me, swimming and my oldest brother would pay off in dividends because we got scholarships to go and swim. My youngest brother played baseball, played soccer. He played many sports. So he also got scholarships to go to school for athletics as well. So when you're thinking about, how, when you have a child, I know for myself, my husband and I are family planning. So it's like, we're already thinking about, okay, what are those things that we need to invest in? Not necessarily strategically get them to college. Because if they decide not to go to college, you know, I guess I'm gonna be I don't know, like if I'm planning in that way, I'm gonna be upset. But really to make sure that my child has the best access to the best opportunities possible for them to get exposure, for them to be able to position themselves for the opportunity, whatever that opportunity is going to look like, right? And then also to make sure that we're financially in a position that we can send them wherever they want to go. And that's really not an issue. And I feel like that's the conversation that's missing, because a lot of people are like, I don't have to worry about college until they get to 9th grade, or they get to 11th grade, or they get to 12th grade. And it's just like, no, those conversations, for all the reasons that were shared, need to happen earlier. But as parents, as the village, as family, if we're saying that the expectation is that our child, our young person, go off to school, we also need to make sure that we are preparing ourselves to be able to help finance that, because finance is real, right? Most young people don't understand that college comes with a price tag until they get the bill. Because if you've been to public school all of your life, you haven't seen a bill from you going to school. So it's important that, again, we have, like, in addition to taking them on campus to see the fun stuff, because I'm not diminishing any of that, having them sit in a class, we also talk about the financing pieces of it so that we can ensure readiness, retention, and that they can pursue the graduation.
Right.
What Jennifer was talking about as far as financial planning, not only do students not know that college comes with a price tag, a lot of parents
don't know either.
I don't know if it's they don't know. Some people don't know, but they don't understand the whole financial aid piece. And financial aid does not always, first off, financial aid is scholarships, grants, and loans. That is the totality of what financial aid is. So you may have to pay back some financial aid, and other financial aid you may not have to pay back. Everyone's not eligible for a Pell Grant. Everyone's, so everyone's not eligible for some state aid. There's some state aid based on where you live that you may be eligible for. And one person may be eligible for it and one person may not be. One sibling may be eligible for it and one may not be, based on the time in which you go to college. And that's really important. And so I've seen so many young people completely derailed by the financial aid process. One, your parents have to submit their tax information. I've seen parents who refuse. They will not submit their tax information. The kid can't go to college. They go home.
Yeah.
There's not, unless the institution can find some sort of scholarship fund for the student, or somebody is willing to pay cash for the student, that student goes home. Or they never show up at school because the parent, the guardian, whomever is responsible for the student refuses to submit their tax information on the FAFSA application. And those are, I know all three of us have heard, especially Jennifer has heard all of the heartbreaking stories from students, because you cannot be independent unless you're 24 years old, in graduate school, you're a ward of the court,
or you have a child.
You have a child, or you have done active military service, or let's say if you don't have contact with your parent, you can file an exception in financial aid, but you have to jump through hoops to get declared independent. You have to have witnesses to say that child doesn't know who their parent is, so on and so forth. A lot of people will try to, you live with your mom, but your dad claims you on the taxes. They'll try to, work the system by using the lower salary. You're going to get caught.
Gonna get caught.
So that financial aid piece really, really derails a lot of people. And particularly at HBCUs, about 86% of our students at HBCUs in totality, not just South Carolina State, will get selected for a process called verification.
Mm-hmm.
Verification can derail a student because, you know, you've already given tax information, but the federal government and the state government will say, let's make sure that what they put on this digital document is true and accurate. So they will make you turn in additional forms, additional proof of income.
Right.
They really gonna make you prove that you don't have the financial means to pay. And so failure to do that means you won't get any aid that you're eligible for until you complete that verification process. That also derails students. So that financial aid piece is really, really important. If you want your student to go to school, you know, if you are able to save just a little bit, you know, for your student, that will be helpful. And if you're you know, banking on scholarships, that's fine. Start early. Don't wait until you need the scholarship to apply for the scholarship.
Right.
And don't just depend on institutional scholarships that come automatically from your application and acceptance. Third-party scholarships. South Carolina State is a Thurgood Marshall Fund school. Most public HBCUs are, most private HBCUs are UNCF schools. Excuse me. Those are the largest third-party scholarship funders of HBCUs. So,
all right. So,
you know,
so hold on, Stacey. Yeah. So let's say that again. Yeah. Number one, there's somebody that has something going on in the background because it just sounds like it's like a lot of pixelating. No. Okay. This is the thing I want you to say again, Stacey, because it just went over. I caught it when you were saying it. United Negro College Fund, UNCF. Mm-hmm. Okay, better known as the Lou Rawls Special after Christmas and New Year. See, because Stacey, you gotta listen.
You'll never find.
No. You know what I mean? You gotta keep your one. We gotta connect the dots. Okay, so like it is still out there, and people need to. Even though Lou Rawls may have transitioned, it's still out there. And so United Negro College Fund, they cover which schools?
Mostly private HBCUs, but not exclusively, but mostly, yeah.
Mostly private HBCUs. So give me an example of which schools would that be?
So for the state of South Carolina, you're talking about like Morris College or Allen University, Claflin University.
Okay, Benedict. Okay.
Benedict.
Okay. Now South Carolina State is a state institution. Okay, which means that there is another set of money,
right,
that came up, the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship Fund.
The Thurgood Marshall College Fund, you know, supports most of your public HBCUs, such as South Carolina State, Fort Valley, Savannah State, you know, places like
anything with a state, something university. Okay. And that's important because that is a pot of monies that often that doesn't get tapped into.
Right.
And I just want people to know, because Lou Rawls, everybody knew him, and even though thank God for RIP and all that, the money still does come in, and they still do fund. They do still. So that is a scholarship to look into. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And then, you know, for instance, if you are a student from the city of Columbia, South Carolina, the Greater Columbia Alumni Chapter here has a scholarship for students going to South Carolina State. The Greater Charleston area Alumni Chapter of South Carolina State has a scholarship for students who are coming to South Carolina State. So, whatever institution you're interested in, look for, you want to look for your alumni association. Many of us are part of National Panhellenic Council or the Divine Nine organizations, Black Greek letter organizations. I know Alpha Kappa Alpha has a whole educational advancement foundation that gives scholarships, and then each graduate chapter gives scholarships for students. And
you're an AKA, correct?
I am.
Oh, okay. I'm just, here we go. We have some AKAs in the
some AKAs in the chat. Yeah.
Okay.
So I know NPHC organizations beg students to apply. So there are about $10 million of unclaimed scholarship dollars just go unclaimed every year because students don't apply. So there's funds out there, but you can't wait until you need them to apply.
Right.
The South Carolina State alum in Philadelphia is big too. A gentleman by the name of Clifford Stanley, who's also one of your notable alum. He was also a general in the military. He's amazing. Scholarship America, the whole 9 yards. He's been in education and he's done so much. But yeah, even in each city or in each area, we also have alum that have scholarships,
right,
as well. Okay. Bama girl, do you have any questions?
I do. I was actually answering questions in the chat. Now, as far as any student that would be interested in attending South Carolina State coming from a different state, how would that affect them, especially as far as any type of scholarships that you all may offer, any type of now me myself personally, I'm big on academia, but we're also a family of athletics. That's just what we do. So my 17-year-old, he is the next one to graduate, and I am definitely looking at HBCUs. Now, if there's feedback, I'm not sure who it is, baby. So would it just be a matter of applying and then see which options are best for him?
So there's when you're there was 2 questions there. When you're an out-of-state student and you're looking at a state-sponsored institution such as South Carolina State, it is going to impact you financially. There are out-of-state fees. So per year, it's going to be roughly an additional $10,000. There are exceptions, but you can only bring in about, 3 to 5% of your freshman class with in-state exceptions, and they typically are athletes. So it will impact you financially with out-of-state fees. As far as athletics goes, athletic recruitment is a whole different monster. The Office of Admissions supports athletic recruitment, but coaches really determine who gets that scholarship, who gets on that team. So, for football players, I would say just make sure your huddle page is up to date. Make sure you have all of your statistics and your film for every other sport. Each coach kind of has their own methodology for recruitment. And they really have the sole discretion on who gets those scholarships. So, yeah. But as far as, even if you are an athlete, you have to be still admissible to the institution.
Right.
So you do still have to meet that requirement. And if you're a transfer student, there's another level of admissibility that you have, because not only do you have to be admissible as a transfer student, you have to have satisfied the NCAA requirements for time to completion. So, you can't just be hopping from school to school as a transfer student trying to find the best athletic fit. So, being out of state does impact you, but mostly financially, with out of state fees. So if you were to have a scholarship, the scholarship may not go as far as covering your total cost of attendance as it would for an in-state student.
Mm-hmm. Now that's $10,000 per
year.
And what's the cost yearly anyway?
So it's right at $20,000 for in-state students.
Wow.
And so just as an FYI, I don't know how other state institutions do it, but the way we determine incoming students, if they're first-time freshmen, we go by where you graduated from high school. So if you have an auntie or whatever that lives in St. Matthews, you can't just use her address. If you graduated from high school in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Right.
So, we go off of the final official high school transcript. For transfer students, it's a little bit different, but you do have to provide proof that you're actually from this. We still, use where you graduated from high school, even though you may have gone to school outside of the state and you're trying to come back.
Right.
Okay.
Let me ask you, the SAT and the ACT are still the standardized tests that the university accepts?
Right. And for international students, we accept TOEFL, which is a English language proficiency exam.
Okay, excellent. Now, do you all have abroad programs?
Study abroad programs? Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to where? Like,
oh gosh, I think they were supposed to go to Japan this semester, and the coronavirus derailed that trip. So that's one of them that I know about. Dr. Rashad, do you know about another one?
I actually had a mister that was actually going to the Japan trip but couldn't make it.
Wow.
I think last year, I don't remember where they went. They went somewhere else, but there's like a whole office at State for study abroad that you can go to, and you can pick, pretty much where you want to go. Because the Japan trip was a spring break trip, but they have a whole office where you can go for a semester and kind of choose where you want to go.
Okay. I want to loop back around to you, Dr. Rashad, and I want to this third grade. So I'm back to third grade. Okay. You took a third grader to a college, and so I need you to go into, where did you take them? Like, and when you took them, let me say this. There are people that will say, well, my son or daughter, they're not really ready for college because their grades are blah, 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 not so good, this, that, and the other. What is your response to that?
Absolutely. See, I believe that teaching is a calling and a ministry, and I was called to teach. And so part of that calling is my responsibility to plant a seed. And so even though that the ground may not be tilled enough and ready enough to produce fruit at the moment, it's still my job to go in there and do whatever I need to do to plant that seed in that child.
Come on, Dr. Rashad.
Right.
Whoa.
It's Sunday.
Yes, it's Sunday. Got to put it in there somehow.
Love it.
Okay.
Right. When I was teaching elementary, I started a mentoring program, Brothers Keeper. And I said that my goal was going to be, once I had this platform with these boys, that I was going to immediately start planting all kinds of seeds. And so Not only did I take them to South Carolina State University, I took them to USC Columbia, I took them to Benedict. I mean, we had a whole time where we was just touring, just kind of expanding their whole horizons and stuff. I had a number of students that actually went to a camp at Clemson University. So we were just trying to expand their horizons so that they could see. And so the parents would come back and tell me like, man, my kid just been talking about, South Carolina State, or they talking about going to this huge campus with all these students that are talking about the band. And so imagine what that's like when you are in elementary school and somebody plant a seed into you when you're in 3rd grade, and then it sticks with you. Imagine that sticking with you from elementary, and in your whole mindset, it changes how your whole trajectory in school is from. Because a lot of our kids, Black and brown kids, they get ready for college and high school. Imagine if college is being prepped upon you in elementary. That'll change the way that you move, walk, and talk, and think in elementary, middle, and high school. So that you can be like for me, I just posted a story on my LinkedIn and my Facebook about me and my friend who went to North Augusta High School. And I said that we were never groomed or thought to be future doctors. We're both doctors now before the age of 30, because schools has this way of producing a hierarchy. You have a few students at the top that are gifted. They get all the scholarships, get all the awards. They call their name 1,000 times during awards day. Then you got the rest of us down there where we don't have $1,000 in scholarships at graduation. We don't have family members where, these family members went to all of these colleges. We don't have that. And so because of that, you kind of grow up feeling like, dang, I really can't be successful. That's why we have to plant the seeds. That's why even if you're not a teacher, if you are willing to go into schools and inspire students to go to school, to plant those seeds, we got to do that, because that's how we're going to win our community. That's how we're going to bring our community and the generation up.
Absolutely.
So I have a question, Bama Girl, because and then I need you three to chime in. Bama Girl, you said that you wanted your children to attend an HBCU, correct?
Yes.
That is, and that's why you're looking now and you're excited about it and things of that nature. I still, and Jennifer knows because we go through this constantly. Are the HBCUs good enough? I'm still hearing, that they're not an up to par school. I'm still hearing from ignorant people that that school party school, and here we have in 2020 the same conversation that we were having when I was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
So the UNCF actually produced a piece of scholarship in late 2019 pertaining to HBCUs, and they didn't just study UNCF sponsored institutions. They discussed HBCUs in their totality, and you can actually find this piece of scholarship that I'm about to talk about at uncf.org. So don't just take my word for it.
Mm-hmm.
HBCUs actually overproduce.
Wait, say that again.
HBCUs actually overproduce, and I'm going to tell you why.
Right. Come through.
Take an institution like South Carolina State, or Benedict, or Morris, or Allen, because this statistic is basically the same for all of us. Well over 90% of our students are Pell eligible. And when it comes to Pell eligibility, that means that your household doesn't earn X amount of dollars. So the wider society would consider you, low socioeconomic status. We have a larger number of students who go to the worst high schools in the country. There are high schools that we will recruit in that USC wouldn't pull in the parking lot for. That right. Clemson probably hasn't had a student come to that school in decades. So we take all of those students with everything the educational literature tells you is not a academically prepared, socially prepared student for college, and we put them out on the other end. Do we always do it in 4 years? No, because our students have issues and hurdles to jump over that other students don't have. But do we produce productive citizens? Do we produce, again, I just highlighted that the U.S. military has cited that South Carolina State produces generals.
Something going on.
You know, so you can't say that HBCUs aren't good enough. To share my own story, yeah, I'm second generation, but my high school counselor told my parents not to send me to four-year school, that they would be wasting their money, and they told them the same thing about my older brothers, that they needed to go to the military. And there's nothing wrong with going to the military. But that wasn't the plan. And my oldest brother is a veteran, but that wasn't the plan that my parents had for us. They wanted us all to go to college. And so, you know, with that being said, I'm HBCU educated, not one time, but 2 times over and nearly 3 times over. My high school junior English teacher told me I wasn't even going to graduate from high school. So not only are we good enough, we are more than good enough. We overproduce, because I feel like if I take the student who, you know, is from a high school that people say nothing good comes out of, and I produce an engineer out of that student who had every hurdle, every economic test, every social familial issue to deal with, and getting them across the stage to graduation, I did more than a student coming from the wealthiest private school in the wealthiest zip code in the United States who went to the PWI. You should have no trouble educating that student because they had every advantage. We overproduce. We don't underproduce. And another thing that troubles me about that, I'm sorry to monopolize the conversation, but this is my soapbox right here. Another thing that troubles me about that conversation is we will go to a majority institution and the professors will call our students the N-word.
Yeah.
You'll be protesting for years and years and years just to get 2 Black faculty. You want a freestanding Black cultural center and a chief diversity officer when you could go down the street and have all of that every day, all day at an HBCU. But as soon as you step on campus and the paint is peeling somewhere, you're ready to leave.
Exactly.
But you'll put up with it for 4 years at a PWI where they'll take your money and you're not welcome. Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Right. You're welcome at an HBCU. HBCU doors have never been closed to anybody, whether they're Black or not. So those things irritate me about that. Are we good enough? Yes, we're good enough. We're more than good enough, and we overproduce.
So Jennifer, what do I say? What do I say to some of our age? Let me just say this. Let me say, okay, let me call a spade a spade. Can you all see me?
I can. Yeah, you were breaking up for a minute.
We can see you, but you're frozen, Queen.
I know we're all breaking up. Can you?
I can hear you if you talk.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. So I have folks that are HBCU graduates, or at least attendees. I don't know if they graduated or not. But they're also in sororities and fraternities, and they have the unmitigated gall to make fun of young people who are attending our HBCUs. Make fun, meaning, you know, calling the student stupid, calling the school out as being stupid. Like back in the day, you know how we would say certain things about our institution. Back, this is what we said, but now saying it and talking about a young person who's in college And this is what we do to our young people. So Jennifer and Doc, I need to hear from you all because I'm about ready to go. I'm getting ready to bust a gasket. And you know how I am, Jen, because I take it to the street. You know how I feel about my folks and my HBCUs and people talking about our children. So help me out. What do I say? And I'm not trying to be all diplomatic, but I'm going to take some of your recommendations today.
Well, I think a lot of the commentary that comes from people who badmouth HBCUs is just for lack of knowledge, right? So, you don't understand the history. You really can't have a full appreciation for HBCUs, right? So, I mean, we know that they came about during a time where Black folks didn't have any other option, right?
Right.
And if you look at the history over time, with the exception of probably those that were established by the Freedmen's Bureau, those that are established by white philanthropists. So you think about Spelman, Morehouse, Hampton, Howard, those institutions are pretty well funded. Some of our public institutions, some of even smaller private institutions aren't really well funded. And that's because we don't support them in the ways that we should financially. So we'll show up at homecoming, we'll show up in the yard for the rah-rah parade, whatever it is, the basketball game, the football game, whatever entertainment, the show that might be happening on the yard, but we don't support it financially, right? So I think that if we badmouth, as a Black person, I feel like if you want to badmouth the institution, you really should be doing your part to support it because it is a byproduct. I don't know anybody in my circle, anyone that I've met that hasn't been impacted by an HBCU, right? So
That's right.
the point that was so eloquently shared before this, I mean, we overproduce, right? So HBCUs have always overproduced with very little resources. I think there's a statistic that 30% of all baccalaureate degrees are awarded at HBCUs, right?
Exactly.
20% of them are awarded, first professional degrees are awarded by HBCUs, right? They only make up 3% of colleges and or post-secondary institutions across the country. So you look at those numbers and you look at the small percentage. I think currently there's 102 HBCUs. So you have 102 institutions of higher education that are not funded or supported in the ways that they should be, but they're still being able to produce and really meet their mission, because their mission was to educate young Black students, college students, when there were no opportunities. And it often meant taking those young people who did not meet the standard of being academically prepared to be successful in college, right? And fall into that low income bracket. So, I mean, I think I read a recent statistic last week that 71% of all HBCU students are Pell eligible. So again, to the point that was made, that's a huge percentage. You have huge disparities in terms of haves and have-nots between institutions that have the information and don't have the information. The other thing that I would say specifically for the Black Greek letter organizations, and I'm a member of one, I'm a Delta, the reason why our organizations were started was because when we tried to go to the PWI, we were not receiving the same level of support as our white counterparts, even post, the civil rights, the civil rights era and before, particularly, we were not receiving the same receiving the same level of support. We were frozen out of a lot of those resources that would provide academic support, that would provide mentoring, that we know is critical to a young person being able to persist and be successful in college. So we had to form our own organizations. We had to form our own networks, right? so that we
That's
can
right.
come together and support each other, each one teach one. So if you actually like study HBCUs, even if you just go onto HBCU campus or talk to someone that's an HBCU grad, I think all of us will tell you our experiences at these particular campuses that were cultivated back during that time when we had no choice but to have each other's back and support each other and pull each other up. That same kind of mentality exists now. So you go to PWI, oftentimes those young people are embedded with this notion that I have to compete with the person sitting next to me. Like my success is not connected to the person who's sitting next to me. At an HBCU is different. My success is dependent on your success. And I can't have you out here in the world raggedy. I can't have you out here in the world messing up because you are a reflection of me. So get it together, together. Let's figure this out. And we all gonna graduate together. That is a difference, right? And if you look at what employers are looking for in potential employees for their companies, organizations, whatever, teamwork comes up in every survey. I don't care what survey you look at. And these aren't HBCU produced. These are produced by white organizations. They're looking for people who can be team players. What better place to get the sort of education that's going to prepare you for life than at a HBCU? So I just say all that to say is that, you know, we have to understand better from whence we have come. We need to, you know, do a better job of providing the supports to those organizations, to those entities, to those institutions, so they can thrive in this new world that we're entering into. Because again, the thing that scares me about our current pandemic is what is going to happen to HBCUs. Many are going to be fine. There are some that are going to be okay, but there are others that are really going to struggle. And so if we don't try to do something to change the narrative, we're only hurting ourselves.
Okay. Wow. I'm going to say something, and then we're going to, Miss Allie had a question about special education, but I just want to say this to Jennifer, and I'm feeling the sisterhood, the love.
Yes.
And I'm saying this, and I'm being entertaining, but I'm being very serious because we are not competing against each other, sisters. And that's what we learn at HBCUs, that we are unique, the uniquely you, right, Jen? And when we enter into, and when we are part of organizations like sisterhood that help to groom us into those types, into that mentality, it is a beautiful thing. When you have people, and I'm going to get off because I don't want to belabor the point. I'm just going to say this. For those people who are HBCU grads and they are part of the Panhellenic, the Divine Nine, the Tau Beta Sigma, the band sorority, whatever they are part of, I am going to say this to you. I don't ever want to hear out of your mouth or anybody else's mouth that you downgrade any of our Black male and or female students that are going to any of our HBCUs. Don't you ever talk about our HBCUs. Don't you talk about our children going to those HBCUs, or that's going to be a major problem. Because my sisters, and we don't play that. Now they might be all nice and professional up there. We don't play that when it comes to our students. Okay? And here this brother's taking third graders to college. And third, you know what I'm saying? And here we have, and that's because we don't want any of our children to fail. We want them to succeed. That's the reason. And I don't want anybody cussing our children and bad-mouthing our children because they have some other intentions or other agenda. Let it go and be grown and stop the ignorance. Right. So to that, what is Allie saying, Bama Girl? What's the question in reference to special education?
My question is, my son is special ed teacher. I hate the label. but do HBCU focus on special ed students?
Yeah, as do
Yeah.
all colleges.
So legally, students who have a 504 plan or IEP, whatever it's called in your state, they, as long as your plan is within 3 years and you have a diagnosed, learning difference, you can submit that to, every HBCU, just like every PWI has a disability services coordinator on their campus. You submit your plan to that person, they go over, okay, well, maybe you shouldn't take 18 hours, maybe you should take 15. And then you're only going to take them on these days, and we're going to build in your study time. So they have a person just like they would in your K-12 that would assist them with kind of creating a study plan that's helpful to them to be able to persist. So.
Okay. Academic Gamer 3 also has a question. They say, but what about the student that does not fall into that category? Is it possible that they be disadvantaged by attending an HBCU?
I personally think that it is entirely upon the person. Nobody should be able to pick and tell you where you can go and succeed. You have to pick. For some Black students, HBCU is the mecca and it's home, and for others thrive at a PWI. So nobody should say all Black students should go to HBCUs and should not attend PWI. You pick where you're going to be. I think that the main thing is how hungry you are. If you put me in HBCU, I'm going to still succeed the same way that I am going to do at a small public or private HBCU. It's because of the hunger that's inside of the person that really defines who they are. Because you can have a student that is a fourth generation college student, being groomed to go to college, go to the expensive Ivy League and bomb. And you can have somebody that goes to a PWI, have all the right credentials, and then you have this HBCU grad, and when the point comes to the road, that an HBCU grad, where the day of work can outwork them, can outspeak them. I mean, and so it depends upon the person. It's the hunger that you bring to it. So absolutely, you pick where you feel like you should go, where you're most comfortable. But at that same token, don't downplay HBCU, because I believe it kind of boils down to racism, and it's the justification of whiteness in order to feel like we have arrived or accepted. People are uncomfortable with just Black being Black. You got to have justification with whiteness in order to say, I've made it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, if I were to be talking to a family or a parent or even a young person, so we were all talking together about college choice, I think that you have to really figure out what's the right fit for that young person. The parents should know their child better than anyone, so they know what's going to work well for them, because the goal is for them to be successful no matter where they go, right? So I think it's important to identify like what is it, what kind of environment, what are those essential pieces that are going to be required for you to be successful, and find that at whatever the institution that it is, right? Usually when we talk about fit, we talk about the social, the academic, and the financial, right? Because you have to make sure that you can, the school has the resources to make sure that you can do well in the classroom. You feel comfortable on the campus socially. There's a home for you, no matter if that's a Black college or if that's a PWI, and that you can afford to be there for the 4 or 5 years it's going to take you to complete your degree. So those are usually like the basic elements of it, but I think that it's really about like, what is it that you're going to need to be successful? I think the unique thing about an HBCU experience is that really when you graduate, no one can tell you anything, right? Like if you can be successful at that HBCU for 4 years, nobody can tell you nothing, right? So you're going to, because there's something about that experience, there's something about the mentoring, the support, the love that you get while you're there. Right. It pours so much confidence into you that it doesn't matter what you come up against in the world, you're going to be able to face it. And even if you fall on your butt, you're going to continue to get up and you're going to figure out and push and keep on pushing. So I think that is an important element to recognize. And I feel strongly about if a young person is able to find that wherever they're going, then they found it for themselves, right? So I don't think that we should ever discount any of that. But I think it starts with really just having a conversation. I feel like for most Black families that I've worked with over time, there's this assumption about what is going to be best for their young person just based on what society says. So the whole notion of racism that Dr. Rashad mentioned, and this idea that if it's white, it's right, that's not necessarily true. Right. So I think that those pieces, understanding that those dynamics, because I feel like also Black colleges help you deal with this whole like racial battle fatigue better. And that's a term in the literature. So racial battle fatigue really just speaks to this notion of like having to code switch, turn it on, turn it off when you're in different spaces, and always having to like justify who you are in spaces, particularly white spaces, and how exhausting that is.
Mm-hmm. And Jennifer, how exhausting it is that when we come back to people in our community, the lack of respect for the time that we put in, the time and money and everything that we put in to get these credentials to be at the table, so we're not on the menu, so that we can do what we need to do the right way for our community, like other cultures have done. When they came here, the Italians were mafioso down. And then all of a sudden they started sending their people to school and everybody became a lawyer, doctor, butcher, baker, candlestick maker, blah, 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 and on and on and on. And then they would support each other. Well, we do the same thing. As soon as we get it, we get questioned. And so that the racial fatigue that you're talking about, it definitely is the fatigue on one side. And it's unfortunate that when we come home, that we still have to fight our own people, because then they want to question, oh, is that like Harvard? Oh, is that Yale? Oh, is that really
Let me say something. Let me say something to that. Okay. This is usually what I tell parents that kind of shuts that down. South Carolina State University is accredited by the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools Commission on Colleges, and so is Clemson. And Florida State, and University of Miami, and University of Texas, and University of Georgia.
And keep it going.
We're all, we're those institutions that are accredited, we're all accredited by the same accrediting bodies. And that includes our School of Engineering, that includes our Speech Pathology and Audiology department, which is one of the most competitive departments in the state of South Carolina. That includes the Department of Education. That includes, all of the majors that are accredited at South Carolina State are accredited by the same accrediting bodies that accredit those PWIs that everybody loves so much. And in the words of the venerable Dr. Charlie Nelms, their ice isn't colder and their water isn't wetter.
Right.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right.
So Stacy, let me get down to a little entertainment. I need to know what kind of the cafeteria, what kind of food do you have on South Carolina State campus? What's up?
It's food.
No. I need to know. I need to know.
Right.
Oh, one of the HBCU traditions that you can find everywhere, no matter what HBCU you go to, is Fried Chicken Day. So fried chicken Wednesday.
Yes.
Where you have fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese. And because we are, kind of close to the low country, you'll also get a day where there might be oxtails present as well. So, yeah. So
now who's cooking those chicken wings? I hope they look like
cooking those oxtails.
They look like us.
That's the question.
Whatever, yeah. So, and then on Friday, it's always a fish fry. So, you get your good comfort foods, Southern comfort foods. There's also a food court where students can get other items. All of that's available to them. We do have in our School of Business, there's a little cafe, kind of coffee shop type deal where they have snacks, sandwiches. You can pick up your latte and go to class as well there. Mm-hmm.
Get the ham sandwich out of here. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, do you have anything for vegans, vegetarians? I'm not one, so don't worry about me.
So there are options in the regular cafeteria for vegans and vegetarians as well, as well as in the food court. So we understand that students have dietary restrictions, and we understand that being Black is not a monolith as well. So there are options for students who follow different different dietary plans. And even though we're in the South and pork is present, we understand that everybody doesn't eat pork. So there's a balance there.
Okay, so you have Brussels sprouts.
There's Brussels sprouts, there's cabbage. It's collard greens, rice and peas.
Oh, okay.
So
all right.
Now, what are the hours of operation?
The hours of operation, I cannot remember the hours of operation for the cafeteria. Dr. Shaw, you know that? Oh, I know the faculty and staff lounge because I go there all the time.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. As long as you all go, then
in the cafeteria. So,
because Gilberto is a bragger on certain universities to in this 24-hour thing going on.
Nothing in Grambling, Louisiana, but Grambling State.
In the infirmary, medical attention. If somebody needed to get medical attention right away, is there anything available on the campus?
Absolutely. We have a medical facility and is staffed by, licensed medical personnel, physicians, and registered nurses. So,
okay.
Yeah. And it's open, during university business hours, which is typically 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's called Brooks Health Center.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And students also, unless students have show proof that they have insurance, students will automatically be added to the university insurance, and that's pretty standard across colleges and universities as well.
Okay. What about those who have and I think someone already asked about special ed, but I want to go back to just the mental health and the support systems that are in place for those that might have diagnosis of,
We have counseling services on campus as well for students who, may struggle with mental health diagnosis or addictive types of disorders as well. So.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So I had to get the cafeteria in. That was good. Thank you for that Wednesday. I'll be there on Wednesday. But anybody, did anybody else have any questions, Bama girl, in the chat? Did you have any? I see Joyce is in the house. Did you see
I see Joyce. Hi, Joyce.
Yay. Was there anybody else had anything they wanted to add to what something that you might have missed that we missed?
So I think
I'm upset about somebody talking about my HBCUs, right?
it's gonna be okay, but that's why conversations like this are important. Because I think that is also, majority institutions for the most part have more money, they have more resources to do, these full-on marketing campaigns, to match, their admission seasons. You think about majority institutions that heavily advertise and students are influenced to want to attend because they're football schools or they're basketball schools and they get airtime on ABC, ESPN, whatever, 1, 2, 3, whatever. They get that airtime in doing March Madness, on CBS. So I think, there's a lot of noise that, I think people have to sift through. So having this type of conversation is really, 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 really important to kind of elevate the profile of HBCUs. Because again, I can't think about a teacher that I didn't have from K all the way up to this point in my education who was not educated in the HBCU.
That's right.
I can't think of I'd be lying if I said I went through my entire education and I never came across any HBCU grads that influenced my education in any way. That's just not the case. And so I think we have to go back and we have to honor that. We have to talk about it. We got to be honest with each other. So when schools aren't doing what they need to be doing, we need to be honest about that. But then we also need to be a part of the conversation that helps to come up with a strategy around how we fix it. And how we save it, right? Because that's real. I mean, I know that's a major conversation that's been happening here in Pennsylvania with Cheyney. It is the oldest HBCU, and they've been under attack around having to close their doors, for lack of a better. And most of that is because, one, it's a land grab, because where Cheyney is situated is not too far from a majority institution. And so folks are looking at it like, well, we can expand and have I'm not going to name the school, but we can have East Campus over here, So
right.
absorb all of this because this land is really valuable. They have an amazing alumni association that's been battling to kind of make sure that doesn't happen. And that isn't happening. I think Cheyney is going to be back on the come up. But if we stop and say, if we pause and say, hey, we're not sending our young people there, then the institution is not going to have what it needs to be able to remain open.
That's right.
We have to give those institutions a chance. Somebody had a question about we talked about I guess students with disabilities or students that are good at athletics but they're not good at their intellectual ability is not there. To that I would say, as somebody that was a student athlete, it's important that you do the student part is critical to the athlete part. You can't be an athlete in college without being a student first. So I say that to say, and there's layers to the conversation, because we know that there are Division I schools that are on television where they can give very little about a young person actually getting an education, because that young person is a commodity.
Right.
That person is a commodity that's being paid. They've been bought by having a scholarship. So we gave you a scholarship, go carry the ball. Or as that sports reporter told LeBron, shut up and dribble.
Wow.
Right.
So it's but they don't really care whether or not you get an education, or if you get that degree in basket weaving or underwater or whatever you were doing. They don't care that you're then able to take that degree and go make some money or make a living for yourself. So it's important that as a parent, you recognize it's like game recognizes game. If athletics is going to be a vehicle to get your young person into college, you need to also be stressing the college part. Because at the end of the day, you can break your arm, dislocate your shoulder, jack up your Achilles. At the point that you become damaged goods and got to be the horse that's being taken out the pasture, and you're of no value to that institution anymore, all you're really going to have left is your academics. So as someone, again, that was a student athletes get a lot of benefits. There are a lot of perks to being a student athlete. So if you go to, because again, the coach has to make sure that you remain eligible to play so that they can see a return on their investment. So you're going to get extra tutoring support. You're going to get an academic advisor, maybe just for you, depending on the school that you go to. You're going to have access to services that other regular students are not going to have during certain times of the day. Use that to your advantage, right? I hate that our black men in particular get kind of put out as ponies for the show, but we don't often get to be able to reap the benefits. Remember, Michael Jordan, so his whole, like that whole Bulls documentary, the 10-part documentary is on ESPN. Michael Jordan ain't dribbled a ball right now in over 10 years, but that man is still making money. Why? Because he went to school. He left school early to go into the league, but then went back to school to finish his degree and learn the game. So he was a commodity for a long time, but he was able to parlay his position to basically make it so his grandchildren's grandchildren probably will never have to lift a finger for the rest of their lives.
Right.
That's powerful. So
there you go.
We have to, again, if we're going to think about this transaction, because you being a student athlete is a financial transaction, whether you see the dollars, like you actually see the money on the table or get a check written to you, it's still an exchange for education. So how do you leverage that to your advantage? How do you as a parent make sure that your young person is getting everything that they need by way of support, so that whatever deficits that they have are getting addressed, so that they can be proud of saying they earned their degree, they have a plan, and they're able to successfully transition after their time in college.
There's a book by William C. Rhodes called $40 Million Slaves, and it basically chronicles African-American participation in sport in the United States from its inception to probably like the early 2000s. I think that book should be required reading for every parent and every student athlete. Mm-hmm. The NFL draft. The book is called $40 Million Slaves. The author is William C. Rhodes. Mm-hmm. It's a page turner. It really is. Very good book. But one thing that just a highlight, the NFL draft just passed. Mm-hmm. If you have a son that plays football, he has a 0.08% chance of actually being drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, where the contracts are guaranteed. There's an even smaller percentage for him to last 5 years in the NFL, where his pension will be guaranteed. Mm-hmm. Similar statistics for the NBA. Got a better chance of going to National Baseball League, but so I think it's important for us to understand that, as Jennifer said, athletics is a vehicle by which that you pay for college, not college being a vehicle by which you play athletics. Mm-hmm. And I think we approach that, entirely wrong, as a community. Not to say that you shouldn't nurture your children's interests and their talents. You absolutely should, but you have to make sure that they are getting what they're supposed to have. If you have a child that goes to an elite, Division I institution, Power 5 conference, one of those conferences that multi-million dollars come through athletics, you make sure they get that degree to go along with it. Or else, your son has just been thrown around a football field hundreds of times to make those millions of dollars for that institution, and your son didn't come out with anything. So, for some reason, women tend to graduate at higher rates, no matter, whether they're Division I, Division II, III, HBCU, PWI. Also, HBCUs are more likely to graduate your students who are athletes than if they go to PWIs. And that's whether they are actually a Black athlete or not. There are some sports at HBCUs that are, have a heavy proliferation of students who are not African American. And they also have a higher likelihood of graduating than their counterparts who go to PWIs, even though they're, either international students or white students. They have a greater chance of graduating. They also have a greater chance of getting playing time at HBCUs too. But, so keep that in mind. So, yeah.
Now, I know from the athletics point of view, of course, I was always, leaning toward, a PWI, one in particular, Alabama, Roll Tide. But since we've been doing this HBCU segment, I've kind of gotten away from that, even though, I'm Roll Tide down to my bone marrow, but that's because that's what I was born into. But the more and more segments that we do on the HBCU, I have definitely transitioned over to that. Now I do have a student athlete, and I am very big on academia, simply because I know that he could easily, cause something and get hurt in the game, and that's his career gone. No matter how great he may be now, anything could happen. You know what I'm saying? But now that since we've been doing this segment, I have a newfound appreciation for the HBCUs that I know that we come in contact with in particular. I know that. So now he and we don't have the discussions of me encouraging him to, play your game, do your best, make sure I have all his clips and everything just to submit them to Alabama. No, now that's, that's not our goal anymore. I like the whole feel of the HBCU camaraderie, family type of feel, whereas I know as if he goes to Alabama, he's just one in the number.
Right. And the other thing, Bama girl, and I know Dr. Rashad has to leave. I did want Dr. Rashad to just say one little thing. He's also on the campus. He's a graduate of South Carolina State. He's educated in and around the state of South Carolina. So anytime you have your children going to any of these schools, especially your male children, you have an awesome male mentor that's there on the campus that's going to look out for the cookout, that's going to be able to say, bruh, now your mother, if I call her these little shenanigans, you think your mother and father, especially your mother, will be here in about 2 minutes,
especially his mother.
So I just and I just want to say, thank God thank goodness for the Dr. Rashads and the many other patriarchs and the many other Simbads, if you will, from different worlds. Let's give it up to different world. Hallelujah. And just be thankful for them, because they're going to be the ones that will be able to look out for your son. That's what you want. And so, Dr. Rashad, before you have to leave, and we're going to be finishing up as well, but, just say something to the mothers who are sending their sons, in particularly, off to school.
Absolutely. So I can tell you for South Carolina State, I first started teaching as a professor when I was 26 years old. That's when I finished my doctorate degree, and I was teaching at 26. I am the youngest professor in my department. I'm 31. And so what it does is it gives me a different level of relatability when it comes to my students. So one of the things, I serve as advisor of 101 Black men that have freshmen all the way to senior graduate students. And so
Yes.
part of the thing is that college is bigger than just academics. It's socialization. And so because of that, a big thing that I look at is mentoring. I'm a big brother. And so I'm a big brother in Call Me Mister. I'm a big brother in 101 Black Men. I'm a big brother in the frat world. And even if we're not associated in any of those organizations, I'm still your big brother. And so a lot of the students will tell you, I spend a lot of time preaching and coaching and talking to them. Because again, just like I planted those seeds in elementary school, I feel like I got to plant those seeds where I'm at now.
Right.
Because I made it this far in life because there was somebody that helped me get through this way. And that's my obligation too. And so that's really, I can say I was afforded great mentors that when I didn't show up to class, they knocked on my door, literally knocked on my door.
What's going on?
Right. So because of that, I can say that those mentors helped me get to where I'm at. And so I feel like I have to do the same thing now in that role. So send them on to SC State, have somebody look after them.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Dr. Rashad. That's wonderful. I appreciate you so much.
Thank y'all.
Dr. Rashad, wait a minute. What about your book, man? Stop. Yo.
Oh yeah. So I have a book that I released last year. We just hit 2,000 book sales with it. It's called What's Up with All the Black Boys in the Principal's Office. And so this book is taken from the perspectives of elementary Black male students themselves about how they articulate, how they disengage from schools. Because we often hear from teachers and principals and education research, but this comes directly from the perspectives and mouths of elementary students. So What's Up with All the Black Boys in the Principal's Office? It's on Amazon, and you can also get it from shopblackboywonder.com.
So you'll send me all of that. We'll put it up on the Bama Girls community wall. Okay.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
And we will share it out, most definitely.
Definitely.
I see my LB just joined on, Albert Schuler. Okay. All right.
Okay.
But all right. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming, Dr. Anderson. Thank you so much for your insight.
Yes, man. Y'all take care.
Take care.
All right, now. Take care, Doc. All right, ladies. I mean, if there's anything else that you would like to say, Jennifer.
I guess what else do people want to know? Because I guess, I mean, we talked about a lot. I mean, mostly centered on HBCUs, financial aid. I think I saw someone had made a comment about like, what about convicted felons?
I missed that question.
It was like super early in the chat, and I don't even know if it was like a real question. It was more like, what about convicted felons or something?
Okay.
So I guess with that, there are resources like, so most people who may have a criminal background may not apply to college, much less apply for financial aid. They're not eligible. That's not true, right? Obviously, right. It's examined on a case-by-case basis. So it's important that you utilize spaces like this, college fairs, open houses, to have like those one-on-one conversations with admissions people to figure out kind of like what is it that particular school is going to require by way of documentation. If you do have a record, particularly if you are a convicted felon, and then also like to figure out what financial resources or what your process kind of might look like, right? A lot of schools have the information on their websites, but if you have specific questions, like these people, going to those events and having conversations with those experts that are actually looking at the applications, that are making decisions on the application, is probably your best route. So I would say, like, the short of it is, like, just if you have a record, if you have a criminal record, or even if you feel like, because I know earlier in the conversation we talked about, and Stacey covered it, really, we talked about the financial aid pieces of it and young people whose parents don't complete the FAFSA. I would just encourage, like, don't give up, don't stop there, because there are exceptions that can be made if you provide the proper documentation, as Stacey mentioned also. But then also there might be some other resources that you might be able to piece together for that year that can get you over the hump. Or there may be other avenues that you have to pursue, like going to a community college for a year or two, so that you can reduce the cost of your education, because those are avenues that are a lot more affordable. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we have a lot of young people, a lot of adult learners who go to community colleges. I tell young people all the time, and their parents, when they kind of stick their nose up about the idea of going to a community college, I'm like, the same faculty member that teaches down the street at University of Pennsylvania, Temple, Villanova, all these schools that are in the Philadelphia region, they also teach a class at a community college. Do you think they change their syllabus for those classes? And they think, they're like, oh, no, they don't. So that's too much work. So they might make some tweaks just based on the institution or based on the class that they're teaching. But for the most part, they're teaching the same information, right? Those people down the street might just be paying, they're going to be paying more money for that, right? Which is not a terrible thing, but I don't want you to think that it's less than because it says the title has community college in it.
Right.
So I think that that's an important piece that oftentimes we don't discuss. I think the last piece that I want to share, I know we focused a lot on the idea around maybe preparing a junior or senior for college admissions. And we did touch on kind of like, when should you be starting the process? In the process of just providing that exposure, making sure that they have information, making sure that you're kind of making college or a conversation about post-secondary planning, putting that at the forefront of, kind of the conversations that you need to have with the young person in your life, whoever it is that you're parenting, is that you're also having the conversation with them about what is their, like, how does this kind of like why do you want to go to college, or why do you want to do this particular post-secondary thing? Be strategic about how you do exposure. So if a young person expresses, I want to be a nurse, or I want to go into whatever the field is, nursing is just the first thing that popped into my head. If they really look motivated, and if they really are kind of like giving you some in the conversation, they said, I would be interested in doing this. If it's connected to taking a college course, have them take a college class at the local community college so that they can get their feet wet. But then they also are earning college credits, right? Do an exercise with students when I do workshops and with their families. How do y'all know how much it costs, like a college credit cost? At, like, just if take any public institution, or just the average cost. One credit could cost you, depending on, and I'll just say like Temple University, undergraduate, one credit, and every class is 3 credits. And they're like, oh, you have to pay like $1,500 per credit. So for one class, you're paying $4,500. That's a lot of money for one class. And versus at a community college, you could be taking a class where the credit is only maybe like $98 per credit.
And that's not bad.
So that same credit that you're going to get credit for at the 4-year institution is less than a third of what it would cost for you to get it at the 4-year institution. And you can transfer those credits in to the institution. There you go. There's some strategy around that, which is another conversation for another day. I was, as an academic advisor, I love giving young people and their families, particularly Black and brown folks, this hack, because as an advisor, I would often meet with students, sadly, that did not look like any of us on this panel, that came to Temple University with 30 credit hours as freshmen. So technically they weren't freshmen anymore. So it was a combination of them doing college classes and AP coursework and earning the AP credit. They come with 30 credits already. So what that meant for them was that when they're in school, they could be, it usually wasn't a conversation about, can I graduate early? What white folks have figured out is, in addition to getting their college degree, they also need to make sure that they have experiences that are going to make them marketable in the economy. Not that we haven't figured this out, but I think that from what I've observed, it's a lot more methodically planned than what our plan is, right? And so they know that they have to have these experiences. They also know that it might be beneficial for them to get a certificate. So a lot of like majority institutions and a lot of HBCUs have added, in addition to majors and minors, certificates. So you'll have students, I would be sitting with students to be like, I want to major in Spanish, but I want to get a minor in Chinese, and I want to get a certificate in business.
Right.
And it's like, where did you come up with this? This has been the conversation that their family members have been having, or they've been exposed to this idea that I need to kind of have these things. Some of it is a little outrageous because at a certain point, it's not necessarily, we know it's not always what you know is who you know. So how do you kind of strike that balance? But if you have space in the curriculum to do that because you came into college with 1 million credits, then why not? You know, it also affords you the opportunity to study abroad multiple times just for fun. Right? Nice. So it's just like, I think that we have to, if I can leave you all with just anything, I would just say, like, let's really kind of treat the post-secondary planning like a business transaction. You know, yes, college is fun, and I don't ever want to be that person that takes the fun out of college because I had a ball. But knowing what I know now, I definitely would have approached it like there are things about my experience that I would have approached a little bit differently.
Exactly.
And so I'd encourage you, especially because college is expensive and it's not getting any less expensive. I would encourage you to kind of think about, like, what can I do now to position myself if you are the young person or you are the person that's potentially going to college, or if you're the parent, how am I positioning my young person to really be able to take full advantage of this experience, going ahead of the game so that they can really enjoy their experience. So AP classes, college courses, and don't just take the AP class because it looks good on your transcript. Actually take it so you can pass the test. Because if you pass the exam, that could be I've seen students get 6 credits off of one AP class, right? Or 8 credits if it's a science class. So that's half a semester. If you take 12 credits, I mean, you need to take more than 12. You're going to graduate in 4 years. But again, that's another conversation too. But I think that it's a strategy that I feel like we need to talk about. Because I think we've done a great job of getting young people into college. I don't think that's the issue anymore. I think the gap is where how we are helping them to persist and then also be successful on the other side of that experience.
So I want to, my final comments, I guess, to talk about convicted felons, not to say the same thing that Jennifer said, but there is a program called the Second Chance Pell Program. South Carolina State is not a participant, but there are institutions that are HBCUs across the country that are participants in the Second Chance Pell Program that provide up to $12,000 for, justice involved individuals to pursue or complete their post-secondary education. So like a simple Google search, will tell you which institutions participate in that program. And if those courses are online or face-to-face. So that's one thing. Something that just to touch on quickly that we do not talk about is satisfactory academic progress. Satisfactory academic progress means that you are passing an appropriate number of classes per semester, per year, based on the length of time that you've been enrolled at an institution. So most institutions, after you've been there for 2 years, you have to have at least a 2.0 cumulative GPA, which is a C minus GPA, and you have to have passed 24 credit hours. So to officially be a sophomore and be making satisfactory academic progress, failure to do so will mean that you are academically suspended after a year. So a lot of times I see students come in and they're like, oh, I can hang out and play around or whatever for a year, and then I can pull my GPA up. Tank your GPA your first year, you're going to be climbing out of a never-ending hole the next 3 years. That's so true. When you come to college and university, and again, yeah, it's fun. I had a ball. I was a cheerleader. I was Miss Homecoming. I'm a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. If the party was open, me and my friends were in the middle of the floor. We were there early because we got in free. I'm not saying don't do that stuff because I did it. I'm saying that before I ever went to the party, I wrote my paper. And after I came back, I turned it in at 3:00 in the morning to make sure it was on time. So there are trade-offs in order for you to do those things. And while we were partying, I also was an honor student. So if you can't navigate both of those things at the same time, don't do them. But make sure you know what the satisfactory academic progress policy is at your institution. And every school has one, not just HBCUs. Every school has one. Every school that awards dollars from the United States Department of Education has to have a satisfactory academic progress policy. Make sure you know what it is at your institution, because it also can derail your attendance. Being put on academic suspension, academic dismissal, and academic probation, and there are only so many times that you can appeal, and it can cause you to lose your ability to forever and ever, amen, the rest of your life, borrow any funds from the U.S. Department of Education.
Right.
So, college is fun. When we see HBCUs, we focus on the band and stepping and everybody, the ski-wees and the oops and all that kind of stuff. But it's serious business. And, if you come in and you play around, you're going to spend, what I tell students, you're going to spend a lot of money on a very expensive vacation at a 3-star resort. So it's not a vacation. You definitely have to make sure that you're taking it seriously, and that you're going to class because you're paying for it. You're paying that professor to stand there in the class. You've already paid when you start school. You've already paid for the food that you're going to eat. You've paid for the room that you're going to sleep in, and you pay that professor to show up every day that you have a class. So you've already spent the money. You might as well show up. So,
all right. Thank you, ladies. Excellent ending. Thank you so much, Bama girl. Another one.
Yes, another one, honey.
This is, I tell you, this is awesome. This is awesome.
Well, thanks, Tasha.
And listen, ladies, the best of everything to you and you're finishing up your doctorate, correct? And here's the thing, if you ever need me for anything, I can play the trombone, and I can play the trombone at your, anything, along those lines. That's what I like to do now. I don't want to be serious. I just want to have fun. But whatever you need from us, Ms. Bama girl, we are here for you. And we will. Stacy, is it okay to put your information as the director?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
And we are still accepting applications to South Carolina State for the fall 2020, spring 2021 semesters. So yeah.
And housing is open now still?
Housing is still open, yes. Mhm.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know because yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
All right.
Awesome.
Okay,
All right,
and
Bama
your
girl.
your information, Jennifer, as well. Do I have permission to post it on
Sure.
my community wall?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so y'all, we have had yet another very educational,
Successful.
very informative, very
Yes.
successful live. I appreciate every panelist that came today. Stacy, Soul, thank you so much. Jennifer R, Dr. Rashad. Oh my God, you guys have been amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, as I do each and every one of them. You ladies, in my opinion, are the epitome of what every little brown and black girl should want to be and aspire to be. I appreciate you. And I know that my little girls, along with their mother, we're all role models.
Absolutely.
And I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, guys, we are going to end this live. We've been on for 2 hours and 5 minutes now.
Wow.
On your way out, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe. Please don't forget to thumbs up the video, share the video. And until next time, we will see you all later. Thank you so much, TC. Much love, Queen.
All right, Bama girl. Appreciate you.
Okay.
All right. Hold on, ladies.
Yeah,
Hold on,
right.
ladies.
Bye.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Okay. Oh, I think she went out.
I told her to hold on. Are we still?